What is up, bros? Josh here. In today's video, we're going to go over one of my most asked for videos recently, and that is which ships are going to be best for the upcoming ranked battle season. So, in 7.10, ranked sprint is going to be hitting us. This is the first sprint version of ranked that we've had before. And what is it? It's basically a smaller, condensed version. There will actually be 2 seasons within this patch of tier 5 ranked battles, both lasting about 2 weeks long, and then you try to get through rank 10 all the way to rank 1 as fast as possible using tier 5 ships. So with an upcoming rank battle season, we better pick the best ships to get rank 1 in class by class. So let's dive into it, because there's definitely some elephants in the room and you guys want to know which ships will be best. So obviously for destroyers, there are some pretty strong candidates, and most of them being identical. What I mean by that, and just for this video, I know there are some small differences, but we're going to be talking about the Fujin, the Kamikaze, as well as the Kamikaze R. All tier 5 IGN torp boat destroyers, and extremely good. And when looking at destroyers and comparing which ones are going to be the best, we're going to be looking at a couple different variables. One being the concealment, which these things are amazing. 2, health pool, and 3, torp. Those are going to be the 3 things I'm going to be looking at when comparing these destroyers to kind of say which will have an edge over the others. And by far, the number 1 destroyer will be one of the versions of this. So Fujin, Kamikaze R, or Kamikaze. Now there is the Minakaze, which is a little bit of a lesser value of these destroyers, but still extremely good. So if you have that, which is the tier 5 destroyer, that will work if you don't have one of the premiums. But the Fujin, the Kamikaze R, or the Kamikaze will be a little bit better version, because they're just, as you see right here, torp speed 68 knots compared to the tree version of the ship at 57. So much slower torps, 11 knots, which is pretty sizable. But the reason that this ship is going to be so extremely good is, 1, it has by far the lowest detection at this tier. Only the other IGN ships are going to be even close to it, with both of them being matched. And 2, extremely fast. Now this was with torpedo reload, the captain's skill, 42 seconds for torps to come back out. And if you've ever played this ship, you can just absolutely launch torpedoes all the time. So torpedoes that are going to hit extremely hard, 14,400 at this tier, every 42 seconds is going to be absolutely nuts, and you're going to be sending out 6 at a time. But the main thing to look at is just that detection. Per any destroyer, even in the past when it was even tier 6, back when the Hatsuharu, or the Hatsuharu when it was rank 6, or tier 6, was so good at still just being able to outspot. IGN DDs have always had a bit of an advantage, or a bit of a place when it comes to ranked battles, because they can just outspot everything. And this just happens to be not only one of the strongest. In the past, IGN DDs tended to not be the strongest for their tier, but they had that ability to just outspot everything. And if you can outspot a destroyer, that gives your team an advantage to then, you know, put some battleship AP or put some cruiser shells into it, and really give your team that advantage of helping you outspot the destroyer. It's not so much about the guns versus guns, but just that ability to outspot. Now, they've never really been in a situation where they will outspot everything and then, 1, be pretty comparable gun-wise. Actually, the Kamikaze R and the Fujin have decent guns, or if you believe it or not, for this tier, they can do a decent amount of damage, even rocking AFT if you really want to. But just having that ability to just send out massive amounts of torps extremely fast and doing a bunch of damage, these are going to be a terror to deal with, and will be the death of many people, and just a beast to deal with. This is by far going to be one of the best. So the premium version of these, probably followed by the Minakaze, which is going to be extremely good as well. Even comparing it to the Mutsuki will be pretty mediocre compared to this, because there's no real reason to take it. Although the torp reload is much slower, but the torp range is longer at 8 kilometers, still having the 5.4, only having the 2 guns to really defend yourself, it's just not worth it. So if you're looking for a tree ship that's comparable to these premiums, but you don't have those, the Minakaze is going to be the way to go. Although, I don't really like this playstyle of these destroyers, so I tend to stick with stuff like the Nicholas, the Farragut at tier 6, I use that. But one of the gunboats that's going to be kind of stand out to me is going to be the Gremyashi. Now, this thing used to be an absolute beast, and it's still extremely good. I think it's going to be one of the best destroyers out there, but it's just no longer available. So for the people who have it, they'll probably use it. The question is, though, will they continue to use it? Reason being, 6.1 kilometer detection is going to be on the higher end for this tier. Although you will get near about 14,000 and some change, about 15,000 and some change of a life pool. It has a big health pool and a decent amount of rate of fire. That detection is something I'm looking at of saying that's mediocre. It's one of the highest for this tier, so that's gonna be pretty brutal. Now 1v1, this is gonna basically almost be everything at its tier, but it's being able to spot that. So radial location is going to be extremely strong for this tier, almost mandatory for some gunboat destroyers, and it'll be really good that way. But being able to find those kamikaze Rs is going to be extremely tough. Although the ship is fast, maneuverable, amazing guns, but slow turrets, it's very doable. Gremmy is going to be extremely strong. It won't be my pick for this style of play, but it's definitely going to have a place there. I could see early season a lot of people using these, but I could see a pretty major shift of people bouncing back to this kind of torp setup, because 0.7 kilometers is extremely high and can give, potentially a cruiser or a battleship a chance to just hit this relatively big destroyer at this tier. These maps are going to be much smaller because of their lower tier maps, so things are going to be closer. Battleship, cruiser, shells are going to be able to hit these much more. That detection is really going to be pretty massive, and 7/10 of a kilometer is a big margin to just consistently outspot. Still has 8-kilometer torps, but I don't think they'll be quite as usable. But if you do get something you can spot, it's going to be extremely strong. My pick for this season will probably be the Nicholas. Now, downside about this is it has 5.5 kilometer torps, but the guns are extremely good, and the detection is pretty dang good at 5.8. So you're still going to get out-detected by the IGN torp boats, but the guns are going to be extremely good. Also, being the one destroyer, if you do pick the other hull, as you fully upgrade it, we are going to lose the gun, but you are the only destroyer that will have the ability to pick an AA consumable. So if there are Seabees in queue, you're going to be the only DD that's going to be able to defend itself at this tier. So it'll be one of the strongest ones there, and the damage will be extremely good from this. But 5.8 is still pretty dang good. I think the Nicholas is going to be a solid choice for this. When it comes to a gunboat, I think it's going to be probably one of the top ones. The Acosta, which is new, I don't see it being that good. I think the niche is kind of meh, and again, I'm looking at the detection of 6.0. You're going to get just out-detected by a lot of things. But to the Podolsky, this will be one of the worst. 6.8, you're going to have to play it like a cruiser. It's just not worth it. Might as well just bring a cruiser. T22. Now, this thing was just buffed, and I was really surprised to see some of these values when I saw the ship. This thing could be a bit of a wild card for me when it comes to this this type of ship. Decent health pool, decent range on its torps with a decent reload boost, or a decent torp reload. 5.7 kilometers. This could be a wild card for me. I'm interested to see how this goes. Hated it when I played the ship originally, but ever since its buffs, it could be pretty solid. Also, the Ohotnik, I think this one could be very memey good. Relatively low detection, 7 guns, slow reload, but if you've ever played this ship, you can absolutely obliterate ships, obliterate cruisers, and just be an absolute menace because you're so low in the water. But you're extremely long. It's called the battle canoe for a reason, and you could take a torp from one of those IGN DDs. Again, those things are just going to cause major havoc. Everything else will be pretty mediocre. Really, the ships to really look at this season for destroyers are going to be the IGN destroyers, the premium ones, Fujin, Kamikaze R, Kamikaze. Gremyashi will have its place there as well, but I'm going to be looking at ships like the Nicholas, potentially the T22. That'll be pretty solid, and then I mean, maybe some different random ships in there, but really those IGN DDs are going to be at the top. Minikaze would be solid if you don't have one of the premiums, but if you're looking for ships that are non-premiums that you can get from the tech tree, I think the Minikaze will be great. I think the Nicholas will be great, and I even think the T22 will be pretty solid too. But everything else will be pretty kind of mediocre and kind of just fall from the wayside. This will be basically meta when it comes to, torp boats, the anti-torp boats, and stuff like that. So for cruisers, this is going to be extremely hostile this season. Tier 5, cruisers tend to be extremely fragile. Battleships tend to be able to hit them very hard, and destroyers tend to be extremely stealthy. So things I'm looking for in the cruisers when I break this down: firing range, if the ship has sonar, and its detectability. And for me, things that I'm looking at for ships that have strength, the Murmansk is there for me. I think the Murmansk is going to be one of the best ones. Reason being is that you can shoot multiple guns forward. That's 6 shells going out forward. That can be extremely good. Range is extremely good for this ship because it does have a spotter plane as well. So getting that 20% is going to be extremely nice. And on top of that, you have sonar and you have decent torps at 8 kilometers. So that is usable. I think the Murmansk will be one of the best. I think the other Omahas are kind of lacking right there, the Omaha and the Marblehead. But something I could see being pretty good is the Karab. Now, this thing just got a recent buff to its reload, but those big shells hurt a lot, and especially for battleships too. Again, though, this this tier is extremely hostile for cruisers because everything tends to be so flat-sided and so fragile. So a bit of a downside there. But the Karab, its 180s are going to beat up on battleships, and it could also beat up on destroyers, again, having sonar to work with. Königsberg will be great if you want to play this ship. Again, smaller health pool there, but still good range. 16.5 kilometers with extremely accurate shells. We just played around with this ship again for my Road to Tier 10 series, and I forgot kind of how good it was. So we're looking at HE, fire starting, stuff like that, and still pretty decent detection at 12 kilometers. But my wild card for the cruiser is the Emerald. Royal Navy cruisers, whether you like them or not, extremely can be extremely uneasy to play. They can be pretty tough to play from time to time, very unforgiving. This one could be interesting because smoke is so strong, and having by far the lowest detection at this tier, 8.7. Now obviously you're not going to be out detecting destroyers, but setting up in smoke and using that smoke as an advantage, that always has worked for the Royal Navy cruisers. They've always had a spot in this game, but battleships are much better at playing in smoke these days. You know, torping that smoke, although you do have a good hydro and a good ability to get going, it's going to be a little sketchy, especially just knowing 42 seconds. Every 42 seconds there's going to be torps heading your way. I find these ships to always be, you know, good. I find them always to be good no matter how strong they are for the tier when it comes to rank. So we saw things like the Leander shine at tier 6. We saw the Fiji shine at tier 7. And even the Edinburgh have some times where it was actually extremely good at tier 8. But it's going to be interesting. It really will be. This is something that I feel like this tier is going to be really brutal for most cruisers, and it's going to be extremely passive for most cruisers. So the reason being passive and a bit more of an Atlanta playstyle is, like it or not, laugh at me if you want, Krasny Krim could have a place there. Reason being, lots of guns going out and a high trajectory, meaning you can set up behind an island and just burn things down. And with AFT, you can get out to almost 17 kilometers. Good luck hitting anything, but imagine that many shells being late in the game, no battleships, and your DDs are spotting their DDs. Could be a pretty solid ship if you really want it. Very passive. So again, strengths for some of these cruisers, range, stuff like the Murmansk, stuff like the Karav, and stuff like the Königsberg will be extremely good. Using that range, using that rate of fire, and getting things down. Now the Karav doesn't have quite the rate of fire, but punishing broadsides on cruisers. You know, if a Karav catches a Omaha or something like that broadside, you're gonna feel that for sure. Emil will be decent. I think the Furutaka will be probably one of the bottom tiers. Omaha and Marblehead probably be pretty low, even though they're pretty close to the Murmansk. But Murmansk just, it's Russian, so you know it's going to be a little bit better. This will be a very interesting season for cruisers. Again, if there are any CVs, it's not like anything stands out for having a high AA build. Murmansk is going to be one of the highest, but nothing at this tier for cruisers. Even though one of the DDs does have it, none of the cruisers have AA consumable, so you are a prime target to get dropped down by CVs. If I'm a CV, I'm probably going for one of the cruisers first, especially if you are the IGN CV, the Zuio, you could do a cross drop and potentially get that cruiser out right away. I just realized that was 12 kilometers without putting in the captain, so assume this is going to be, sorry about that, this is going to be a little stealthier than that. But overall though, cruisers will be a very passive play style and a very kind of I would actually say boring, slow, you know, punish when you can. And then I think they could be pretty good late game if you could stay alive. But if there's going to be, I'm assuming most games are going to be 3-4 destroyers, a battleship or two, maybe a cruiser, you know, maybe a CV, because first season will be 6v6, next season will be 8v8. So the more destroyers, I guess, the better you'll be. Less battleships. The more battleships, the worse you'll be. So it's going to depend on the matchmaking, how these things will really shine, and using that hydro will be extremely strong. So going into battleships, we might as well just get this one out of the way. The Julius Caesar will be by far the best battleship at this tier. It won't even be close, and this thing will be an absolute beast. Reason being, it's extremely maneuverable, low detectability, one of the lowest for this tier, extremely accurate, and has a really good health pool as well for this tier at 45k. This thing is basically going to be that perfect kind of pocket battleship. Yeah, it's going to take some pretty big salvos from the side, but it's just going to be so punishing, and shooting against it being as accurate as it is for a tier 5, which tier 5s tend to not be the most accurate battleships. This thing is amazing and will be able to punish destroyers insanely hard. So this will be by far the best. If you have it, you can use it and just love every minute of it. If you are going against cruisers, you're going to dev strike them off the planet. You'll even hit battleships really hard, and you'll just be extremely good. The Julius Caesar is by far the best battleship of this tier. It's overperforming by everything, and it'll basically be kind of a battle for second, third, fourth, stuff like that, going from that. Second, though, I think I'm going to give it to, I was thinking the October. I'm really interested in how the Koenig's going to do. I really enjoyed the Koenig. It has one of the fastest reloads at this tier, 26 seconds, a decent detectability, and if you really want to, you can spec this thing out for AA and just absolutely shred planes. So depending on what the matchmaking is going to be, if there are CVs in queue, you can be pretty safe from the auto dropping CVs. So this is a great thing to set up. I think the Koenig will be honestly one of the strongest ones. It's pretty accurate. It has a pretty dang good reload for tier 5 battleship. Most tend to be above 30 seconds. Even on the higher end, some like the Texas and the New York are closer to 34, 35. This is going to be actually pretty solid, and I'm interested to see how this thing goes throughout the season. October Revolution is going to be extremely strong as well, but one thing that is very scary for me when it comes to this ship is how its repairs work. So if you guys have never played the October Revolution, you can get this actually for coal if you want to try it out. So if you're saving up your coal, you can get this ship, tier 5 battleship. But the repairs, it only has so many repairs, but you can repair extremely fast. So only having a cooldown or a reload time of 20 seconds, you can get a fire on you, a flood, repair it, flood, repair it. But one of the down thing is you can only do that 5 times. So later in the game, if you're out of these repairs for some reason and you get one flood, you're going to be stuck sitting on that flood the entire game. So when I was ranking the strongest ones on stream, I talked about how the October will be pretty good. I think it'll be top 3. This part really worries me because later in the game, if you are running out of repairs and one torp or one fire, you're stuck for the entire duration. So if I were you, I would probably spec into maybe a bit more of a survivability build just in case, and kind of use all of these for really insane, like 2-3 fires, a flood, stuff like that, because once you use up those 5 repairs, they're gone, and this is one of the few ships that has that repair style like that. But yeah, Koenig, the Caesar is going to be by far the best. The Koenig, October will be up there. Iron Duke, I think, will be pretty solid. Iron Duke, I think it'll be tried and true. The ship is a big fan favorite. Again, you can set up a great AA build, but I think it's still going to get outshined by some of the other ships. One of the old tried and true ships I think a lot of people will like to use is the Congo. Reason being, it has an insanely high health pool, and 2, it's extremely fast for this tier. And on top of that, it has a great firing range. So you're basically going to get the first shot no matter what when it comes to this tier, and you can get into position a lot quicker. Congo will be great. All of the ARP versions, basically the same thing. This will be pretty good. And again, you can set up a pretty good AA build if you really want to. But Congo will be up there. I think it's the Caesar, and then it's going to be a couple other ships that are just solid. So you're going to have stuff like the Koenig, the Iron Duke, Congo, the October Revolution, and then kind of the rest. Now, I don't think they'll be extremely good, but I think you definitely have to talk about the Texas being an extremely high AA ship. There's nothing that's going to kill planes better than this. Basically an Atlanta level AA on top of a tier 5 battleship. But the downside is by far one of the highest detections and by far the slowest reload time. So a bit of a bummer. The New York just in an even worse state. The New York, basically the same thing without the level of AA. So if you have the Texas, a lot of people have gotten the ship for free with using the referral codes. It'll be okay. It'll be a lot better if there are CVs. But overall, slow reload, slow ship, high detectability. Not quite the things you want, but if that's all you got, then that's all you got. But for tech tree ships, stuff like the Koenig will be great. I think the Congo will be great. I think Iron Duke will be there. Britango, I think, will be kind of bottom tier when it comes to that. And then the U.S., sadly, the USN slow, big battleships will be near the bottom for that. Texas only really shining when there are CVs in the sky. Last but not least, we have the CVs, and this is something that I think a lot of people have been kind of making fun of, but I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised about how many CVs are going to be on this season. First of all, there isn't as much of a skill gap when it comes to CVs at this tier. Reason being is there are only auto drops, only auto fighter interactions, so there isn't that massive skill gap that people lost getting tier 6 and up. So first of all, it'll be pretty boring to play a lot of this, but I think a lot of people will play this, you know, hopping in and out just to have some fun. So Zuiho, and it's going to be the difference of these is going to be one, what it can strike, and two, longevity. So I think the Zuiho will have a better strike power. Being able to cross torp against destroyers will be good. You know, you're not guaranteed with how the auto drop sets up. You're not going to be guaranteed to one shot a destroyer, but it's pretty hard. If you get it down, you can get pretty consistent on making that destroyer at least take one torp. So that'll be pretty good compared to the Bogue only having its one drop of torpedo bombers. I think the Zuiho's initial strike will be much better against smaller ships. Late game, you know, it's still gonna be pretty solid. The Bogue, however, will be better against striking big ships because it's going to have bigger torp hits, basically. So with the USN torp spread about 6, and then this being 2 sets of 4 but wider spread. So Bogue will be better against bigger ships. Zuiho will be better against smaller ships. However, Bogue's fighter planes with the 7 compared to the 5, the Bogue will most likely equal skilled CV players will just be able to win the long-term fight because of how the fighters are set up. So Bogue wins long game, but Zuiho can take the advantage and give its team an advantage early game. So which style you like to play, that's definitely a thing. Although I also think that CVs are going to have a bit of a trouble because it's going to be kind of weird since there's not going to be like that high level AA cruiser that we're known to seeing, or even DD spec'd out for AA, although you could set up the Nicholas for it. It's going to be, if I see CVs in queue, I might switch up to Battleships and just run a full AA Koenig if I want to, or a full AA Congo or something like that. So it's going to be about hitting those smaller ships and then really kind of waiting out for your cruisers and your other ships to kind of, one, either force the repair, or two, burn down the AA on a lot of the ships and really striking those targets. So again, Zuiho will be better for early strikes against more fragile, smaller ships. Bogue will be better against the bigger battleships. Going that. So it's going to depend on your playstyle. Again, Zuiho having a 1 fighter, 2 torp, 1 dive bomber, and the Bogue having 1 fighter, 1 torp, 1 dive bomber. So it's going to be up to you on what you like to play. Again, Zuiho better early, Bogue better late game. So a bit of a different part to this kind of video. I do this video for every season, and this is one I've never had to do before, but this is the part of which divisions will be best. And this is the first season that you can actually division with a friend and play ranked battles together. So this is a section of this video that I've never had to make before, so we'll kind of just wing it, and that's which ships will be best together. Now, complementary divisions will of course be the best. So stuff I would like to see and things I think will do pretty well is when you break down a good destroyer group is one of the IGN destroyers with then a gunboat. I think it would be really fun to run one of the IGN torp boats. And again, we're going to look at kind of the strongest setups here. IGN torp boats with a gunboat style destroyer. So let's say a Fujin with a Gremmy will be extremely good. Fujin will spot and torp, the Gremmy will gun down everything, and they can be very, very complementary to each other. One having a backup, and then two, one having great guns while the one spots. So a spotting destroyer with a gunboat style destroyer, even with a like something like the Nicholas, will be extremely good as well. But these things are going to be really good. So a complementary DD setup will be really, really solid. Even if you want to run pure tech tree setups, Minakaze with Nicholas, Minakaze with like even the T-22. This is one of my major wild cards. I think would be pretty solid as well. Or hell, if you just want to run 2 IGN torp boats, you'll be pretty good. And if you stay close, you'll basically be able to win any kind of gunfights if you focus your fire. So complementary destroyer setup will be really good and can really be effective for you moving forward with your rank season. I think by far the probably most effective division, yet maybe the most cheese division, is going to be the Julio Caesar with one of the IGN destroyers. Probably the 2 best ships for this into the same division will be solid. One, you're going to have something to spot for you, as well as another ship being able to shoot said thing that was spotted. So I would expect to see a lot of Julius Caesars with some kind of spotting destroyer, a protective destroyer. You could see it maybe with a bit more of something like the Nicholas to be a bit more defensive. That would be probably a really good setup. So moving forward, like any kind of battleship with something to spot will be really good. You know, if you want to roll something extremely fast, like the Congo with one of the IGN DDs will be really good. Or just having something, you know, like the Koenig with the Nicholas being fully AA'd out. That would be really good as well. So you could be an extremely high AA division. So with any kind of division setup, you really want to run and counter and take care of whatever your counters are. Destroyer battleship, destroyer. I think even cruiser destroyer will be really good. With something, I've even talked about this with another streamer, Keskin, about potentially running an emerald with a gunboat or style destroyer. Being able to keep an emerald permanently in smoke and scanning for torps could be extremely effective when running this. Now, again, anytime with a cruiser going into a division, most battleships are going to be a lot more skilled at shooting into smoke. That's just something that the player base in general has gotten a lot better at. And with the marker on the mini app, it's a lot harder to actually be super effective in smoke, since basically that's not what Wargaming wants you to do. So double smoking that will be pretty dangerous, and having to deal about, like even with a Koenig or something, having to deal with a style of getting spotted in smoke is also very dangerous. So I don't really see too many cruisers being used too much. It's not like you can bring a high A cruiser as well. So double DD, DD battleship I think will be really good. And then you could honestly run something like one of the high A, like a high A Koenig or the high A Congo with a CV. I think that would be relatively effective going forward. So you have something to be that high AA ship, taking out enemy planes, especially enemy fighters, and then letting your CV basically focus on spotting and then striking. So I think that's also very good. You could see a lot of Bogue Texas divisions, with the Texas just completely obliterating planes if they get near it, and almost being impossible to trap on with tier 5 planes. So stuff like that would be extremely good. But again, double destroyer, complementary destroyers will be good. Destroyer battleships will be good, depending on what you like to play, and some of the early ones that went over which ones are strongest. And then I would be interested to see high AA battleships with a CV. I think that would be a lot of fun. Or just a destroyer CV setup too, so the CV can just focus on bigger and better ships, like something like the Nicholas or something like that. I think that would be extremely good as well. But anyways, I'm interested in seeing what you guys want to play. What tier 5 ship are you guys going to play when it comes to it? I think I don't want to play the IGN ships. I think they're very cheesy, and it's not just my playstyle. I'm going to try the Nicholas to see how it works. And then if I really want to get a little greedy and a little having some fun with it, I might even play the Ohotnik. So we'll see how it goes and have some fun with the battle canoe. But first of all, let me know in the comments below what you guys are going to play in this ranked sprint season, and are you going to division? And if you are going to division, what kind of setup are you thinking of using? There's a lot of ideas and a lot of different mixes, but which ship are you going to be playing? Are you going to be divvying? And if you are divvying, which ships are you going to be using? But anyways, guys, I hope this guide helps you out with which ships will be best in ranked sprint per class, and even when it comes down to division. But that's it for me, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.